My father died on Tuesday, and by Wednesday my stepmother and half-sister were already emptying my childhood home. What they didn't know was that Dad had secretly recorded his real will just days before I stood frozen in the doorway watching Rebecca and Vanessa methodically boxing up the antique china that had belonged to my grandmother. My father's body wasn't even cold yet, and they were already dividing the spoils like vultures. Ashley, Rebecca's saccharine voice pierced the air when she finally noticed me. Her perfectly manicured hand fluttered to her chest in mock surprise. We weren't expecting you until tomorrow. I stepped inside what was once my home, the home where I'd grown up before Rebecca entered our lives 10 years ago. Clearly Vanessa, my half-sister, barely looked up from wrapping a crystal vase in newspaper at 19. She was the spitting image of her mother, both in looks and apparently in character. We are just organizing things, Rebecca offered, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. It's what your father would have wanted. I glanced around the living room. Empty spaces on the walls showed where paintings had hung for decades. The cabinet where Dad kept his coin collection stood open and empty. Dad just died yesterday, I said quietly. Why the rush? Rebecca's smile tightened. Grief affects us all differently, Ashley. Some of us need to stay busy by removing everything valuable from the house. Rebecca's eyes hardened. This is my home now. The will is very clear about that. I felt a chill. What will? Dad's lawyer hasn't even. We've already spoken with Mr. Jennings, she interrupted. As Dad's wife, everything passes to me. It's standard procedure. That didn't sound right. Dad had always told me the house would stay in the family, meaning both me and Vanessa. I'd spent the past 5 years in Seattle building my career, calling Dad weekly, visiting when I could. Had he changed everything without telling me? I'd like to speak with Mr. Jennings myself, I said. He's out of town until next week, Rebecca replied too quickly. Family vacation now if you don't mind, we have a lot to do. As if on cue, a man I didn't recognize emerged from my father's study, carrying a large box. His arms strained under the weight of what looked like Dad's leather-bound book collection. Who is that? I demanded. Just someone helping us, Rebecca said dismissively. Ashley, I know this is hard, but your father and I discussed everything. The house needs to be cleared out before it's sold. Sold? My voice cracked. You were selling the house? Vanessa finally spoke, not looking at me. Mom and I are moving to Florida. Here is no reason to keep this place. I felt as if I'd been punched. This house had been in our family for 3 generations. You can't do this, I whispered. Rebecca's face hardened. I can, and I will. Your father left everything to me to manage as I see fit. If you'd spent more time here instead of chasing your career, maybe things would be different. The familiar guilt trip. I'd heard variations of it for years whenever I couldn't make it home for a holiday or had to cut a visit short. I want to see Dad's room, I said suddenly. I've already packed his personal items, Rebecca replied too quickly. I want to see it, I repeated, already moving toward the stairs. Rebecca moved to block my path. Ashley, this isn't a good time. We're all grieving. Why don't you come back tomorrow? When I stepped around her and raced up the stairs, ignoring her protests. When I reached my father's bedroom, I froze in the doorway. The room was completely stripped bare. The bed where my father had spent his final days was gone. His nightstand, the photos he kept of my mother and me, his books, everything was gone. It was as if he'd never existed. Scratch marks on the floorboards near where his bed had been, as if something had been hidden, fun, and recently retrieved.